Yksi kaksi kolmen. It's a microphone test in Finland.
Yksi kaksi kolmen.
Yeah.
How do you watch theater? First of all, I know that
I don't watch theater.
Yes, you don't watch theater, but still, maybe you can recall some of recent works that you liked and what you liked about them.
As I said, I don't watch a lot of theater because what I don't want to see is a certain routine of directors and actors who know how to do it. So I'm looking for different challenges and surprises in the way things are presented or are not presented, and on stage, and of course, because I'm teaching at this Institute for Applied Theatre Studies in Gießen, most of the pieces I've seen in the last 15 years, 20 years, were in the institute, works by my students. And I saw recently a work by one of my students, which was called Cascade, and it was hard to describe what I saw because it was very dark. So I had already get accustomed to the space, and I saw a strange woolen or natural object or subject or animal or human being. It was hard to decide until the very end. It was nearly 1.5 hours long, but it was a moving body, let's keep it that way, which constantly changed its shape. And so I could also, after a while, I thought, okay, maybe the performer is underneath this strange costume, which looked like a forest or like a camouflage monkey or something. And even though I assumed there would be a person behind it, I was never sure where was the head and where was the feet, because she's a dancer, so she could really go in different directions. And it raised a lot of questions about this anthropocentric perspective which we have on theater. And maybe this is a key word. I like performances which look for the post-human world, or for the world which is not controlled and decided by ourselves. Theater in which we cannot mirror ourselves, a theater which is not there in order to identify with us, but a theater which is offering us an encounter of something we have not seen, we have difficulty to describe, as I have difficulty to describe it now, because this is something which is, I think, a crucial definition of art, of any art, that it should not show us what we know already. It should not mirror our life. It should rather formulate a material, a text, image, a sound which we have not seen or heard. And this makes an artistic experience possible. And this is something I'm looking for when I go to theater.
You said it not once, that when you started making theater, you started intuitively by making theater that would avoid things that you don't like. And maybe that also refers to the title of your book, the absence of things you don't like.
I think this title is very flexible on what I could mean with it. As you said, it can be the absence of a body, it can be the absence of what we expect, it can be the absence of sound or of image, or it can be the absence of a logic which we assume, which we expect. It can be the absence of a narration or of a center. It's very a wide term, wide notion of which basically is there to enable the activity and the attention of the audience. It can be the absence of distraction and forces us to discover ourselves, what's going on or what is behind that, what we see.
And this, you said that this is a political matter.
It is. It has to do with a very democratic or very emancipatory issue of trusting an audience, and not underestimating an audience, trusting them to make their own experiences, make their own conclusion of what they see. And this is also related to the fact that I'm very skeptical about sending out political messages or affirmation. I think theater should not be a place for affirmation. I think theater should be a place to confront us, and so we can make up our own mind. And I think everybody is able to do that. And that's why I think a theater which considers itself political, because it shows the meaning and the attitude of the director or the team, is not interesting, because that would rather go for affirmation. Affirmation is a apolitical, unpolitical attitude.
As you said, if you have politics on stage, then there is no politics in audience.
I could say it even more radical in another way, that I would say every interesting thing happening, or if it's erotics, or if it's politics, or if it's violence, should not happen on stage. The only chance it has is if it happens in the perception of the audience.
Maybe there is a method of Heiner Goebbels. How do you do that? Are there some principles maybe, or some technical instruments?
Yeah, it's I have some principles, but I try to enlarge them. For example, I had a difficulty, I don't have so much difficulties when I do my own works, but when I stage, and I did that 3 times in my life, I stage operas of other directors, of other composers. And there was one opera by Louis Andriessen, De Materie. And it's not a conventional opera, but it's an opera which has 4 different movements, and every movement has not really a story, but a topic. Yes, also a narration in a way, in a more complex way. And my principle was, don't illustrate the narration. Try to produce or evoke the narration in the time the audience spends with this movement. Another principle, I think, don't illustrate narrations or don't illustrate ideas. For example, I saw another work of my students recently, and I had the feeling this work was just illustrating theoretical ideas they had, for example, about the art history, or about the view we have nowadays about the construction of an image. And they were looking for examples of the theory. So they illustrated the theory. And this is not interesting. I think you have to provoke an experience which let us experience what the theory tries to describe, but not an illustration of it.
You spend at least 1 year on each production, on each piece, which is pretty long time. And also you demand a long time of a spectator to perceive your piece during the shows. I think this is the maybe the most important political things in your work. No,
I think you can extend this term also in the way how to work with a team. For example, if you are just bringing your own ideas on stage, or if you rather collect the creativity of a team and compose a piece out of this polyphonic voices who are contributing to a production. To put it right, it's not that I work 1 year on one production. with everybody. In the end, I only worked like 6 weeks. We gave everybody, but I spread out these 6 weeks in 1 year, which means I have a lot of time in between to think about it or to reverse my ideas. And to come back maybe to the question you had before, or to exemplify it on my own productions, I think to avoid this illustrative trap, when I'm interested in a topic or in questions which I want to share with an audience, then I rather surround those topics. I don't occupy the center with an answer or with a statement. I contribute from different sides, from different medias, from music, from text, from images, from the performers, movements, from the space. I surround a certain topic, like here in Max Black, I surround it from different sides, also with fire. I surround the actor, the scientist, and the question on vagueness. I surround it with all these elements, which means I give everybody in the audience a chance to choose their focus and to occupy the center in a very individual way.
Mm-hmm. In Moscow, I visited your installation, Genkoan, in the new space. It was this past summer. And actually, I had almost a religious-like experience.
Oh my God.
Yes, I'm telling you. Because we were sitting in this cellar, it was dark, and then some mysterious lights, and then the voices coming from nowhere, and then it was a very strange and beautiful architecture. And then only after maybe 10 or 15 minutes, I realized it was water, because some of the spectators.
You didn't know it in advance?
No, we did not, because I didn't read the paper. So I was like, wow, what a beautiful space. And then some of the spectators threw the coin.
No.
Yes, just to see just to check if it's
also
water.
for religious purpose.
Maybe yes. So you often call your theater, and you call theater as a museum of our perception. Mm-hmm. And I would suggest that your theater also maybe can be called a temple of non-existing religion.
Yes, because Genkoan is referring to a Buddhist temple in Japan, and this work originally was also created in memory of John Cage, to his 100th birthday, and 2012. And it is true that we lose a lot of qualities because the urban space is very loud, is very quick, is very totalitarian in a way on all our senses. And I think the theater could offer time or silence or sensitivity and bring us back some chances to develop those attentions.
Mm-hmm. Then I have two last questions. First, are you a religious person?
I was born into a very Catholic family, and I think I went to church. I had no chance because my father was very strict. I went to church every Sunday until my 18th birthday, and then that was one of the last times I saw a service. And I also went out of the legally out of the church. Mm-hmm. But of course, once you have such a strong formation, and you can't really get rid of it, it doesn't mean that I'm not praying anymore. But of course, I love the meditative and the musical quality of an incantation or of a prayer. Or of course, I grew up with the music of Johann Sebastian Bach, and I still, until the very day, whenever I have a piano around, I will play something by Bach. When I visit a new city, one of the first things is that I go in local churches. Like today here in Minsk, I went to a church to see the different ways how to deal with images and with representation and with religiosity. And it was funny because I had my hands in my pocket when I went to the church, and there was a lady taking care of the church, and she gave me signs that I have to make like this, and of course I did it. So I don't consider myself as a religious person, but I can't get rid of it, and I think that religion or something instead, like art or like a certain way of intense perception, can have probably similar qualities on the individual.
You say that really profound and subtle experience of theater cannot be done like in big audiences, like musicals. This is more like something commercial and more it's not for like profound, as I understood it. And at the same time, you have 2 Grammy Award nominations, which sounds to me a bit controversial. You are a controversial person.
I think you refer to a statement which I gave, that certain theaters which are nowadays still built for 2,500 people, they have a very limited range of really involving an audience. This can be with fantastic music, with Stravinsky, or with the Requiem by Mozart, or with the Cantata by Bach, or other works. But you can't have this participative involvement of an audience like in a smaller performance. And that is why, but now you have to fill these halls, because you build this hall, build these halls, and that's why you can only do musicals or some totalitarian events, which are not so interesting. I still have performances for 1,000, 1,500 people, also of my own, but they are like for Surrogate Cities, with this symphonic cycle for big orchestra, or when I did performances at my festival, Ruhrtriennale, International Festival of the Arts. We had a number of, I think, very good performances for more than 1,000 people. But you have to be very creative to irritate them in such a way. Like maybe I was able to do that when I invited the 100 Sheep to this hall, or I did that also in New York. But you need to be very careful with the use of your techniques, or of your possibilities, because as soon as you try to go back to well-known techniques to entertain so many people, then it's very uninteresting. Yeah. So I think the smaller spaces have a future to replace also the attraction of the media, of the films, of the internet and other attractions. The bigger spaces are possible, but not for a lot of works.
Do you think young people, young artists, should have a vision for themselves, for their art?
I think I should not judge it. I notice for myself that it's a great advantage that I don't have a vision of a piece when I start it, because then I'm much more open to discover the possibilities of a space, the possibilities of a performer, and the team and the collective contributions. When you have a vision, then you never reach 100%. Maybe you have not enough time, or you have not enough money, maybe the performers are not as good as you thought. Then you're always struggling and you will end up very unhappy. For me, it's the opposite way of working. I start with a small expectation, and then I discover so many possibilities that in the end I'm the one who is very happy and surprised. And also I can bring the people to something which they never thought they would be able to.
Thank you very much for this
It was a
conversation.
pleasure. No, it's not for recording. It's for recording.
Yeah, we don't need the.
Yeah, okay, because I don't need.
You'll hear the live sound.
You will hear we talk. You understand?
А мы уже все пишем сюда.